Jana Yamuna Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Gokula Nanda Radha Gokula Nanda Radha Gokula Nanda Shri Radhe Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Shishi Radha Gokulananda ki, Shishi Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shishi Gornitai ki, Shila Jagat Guru Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Pramanande. Hare Krishna. So, welcome to this evening's Bhagavad Gita class. Most days it feels like I'm doing more of an live discussion, more so than a temple one, but I seek for the blessings and the encouragement of all the Vaishnavas that are both here present in the temple and those that are watching online. So today we'll be reading from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, verse 36 to 37, I believe. No, so 37 to 38. So we'll be reading from chapter 1, observing the armies 37 through 38. Before we start, we'll start with a short invocation, and then we'll be reading the translation, the transliteration, and the purport. So we'll start with a short invocation. Om Jnanatimandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshavaramilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Shra Shri Rupam Saganatam Sahagana Ragunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Prayajana Sahitam Tam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vindavineshvari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada Ki. So, I seek for the blessings and for the forgiveness of all the Vaishnavas that are both present here and those that are watching online. And I sincerely, genuinely, and deeply pray that I may say something useful, something beneficial, and something sweet that will really not just help those that are hearing, but also myself in this path of devotional service, this devotional life. Thank you all so much for the opportunity. So we'll start with Sanskrit, as usual. I'll try my best, and then transliteration and translation. So we have 40 minutes. Hopefully that's enough to kind of fit in as much as we can. Yadi api etina pashyanti labo pata chetasaha kulashaya kritam dosham mitra drohe cha pyatakam. Yadi api etina pashyanti lobapahata chetasaha kulashaya kritam dosham mitra dohe cha patakam. Yadi api etena pashyanti lobapahata chetasaha kulashaya kritam dosham mitra dohe cha patakam. Katamna neyam asmabi papat asman nevatitum kulashaya kritam dosham papashyad vir janadana. Katamna neyam asmabi papat asman nevatitum kulashaya kritam dosham papashyad vir janadana. Katamna nayam ashmabi papat asma nevatitum kulashaya kritam dosham prapashyad bir janardana. So that's the Sanskrit. We'll read transliteration together. So please do repeat after me. Yadi, if, api, even, ete, they, na, do not, pashyanti, see, loba, by greed, upahata, overpowered, chetasa, their hearts, kula shaya, in killing the family, kritam, done, dosham, fault, mitra drohe, in quarreling with friends, cha, also, patakam, sinful reactions, katam, why, na, should not, nayam, be known, asmabi, by us, papat, from sins, asmat, these, nivatitum, to seize, kulashaya, in the destructions of a dynasty, kritam, done, dosham, crime, prapashyabhihi, by those who can see, Janardana, O Krishna. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. O Janardana, although these men, their hearts overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, who can see the crime in destroying a family, engage in these acts of sin? So repeat after me. O Janardana, although these men, their hearts overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, who can see the crime in destroying a family, engage in these acts of sins? Purport. A Kshatriya is not supposed to refuse to battle or gamble when he is so invited by some rival party. Under such an obligation, Arjuna could not refuse to fight because he had been challenged by the party of Duryodhana. In this connection, Arjuna considered that the other party might be blind to the effect of such a challenge. Arjuna, however, could see the evil consequences and could not accept the challenge. Obligations is actually binding when the effect is good. But when the effect is otherwise, then no one can be bound. Considering all these pros and cons, Arjuna decided not to fight. So, just to read the translation again. O Janardana, although these men, their hearts overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, who can see the crimes in destroying a family, engage in these acts of sins? So what I want to do in today's class is that I want to break the class into 3 sections. I'll break it. So the first section is really motivation. What is the motivation behind our devotional service? What is the motivation behind our spiritual practice? You see, we could be practicing Krishna consciousness for a very long time, even performing and executing all the right acts of service, but without really establishing, understanding, evaluating our motivation, then we're not really making internal transformation. So that's one. The next thing that I want to really cover is how to make effective decisions in Krishna consciousness, how to make the right decisions. Sometimes we may come across obstacles, difficulties, and challenges, not necessarily in spiritual life, but also in many other areas of our life. So how can we ensure that we're not just making what seems like the right decision, but we're making what is to be considered a Krishna conscious decision in our life? And last but not least, how, it's like that Krishna consciousness is the supreme, is the ultimate goal of life. So these are the 3 things I want to cover. There'll be a lot of stories, a lot of pastimes that I want to relay. So, if you have any questions, please, you can either ask here, or for those that are watching online, you can ask on YouTube, or just get in touch with one of us. So, to kind of really cover the first point, motivation. I want to share one interesting pastime once. What had happened was once there was a Brahmana, and this Brahmana went by the name Narayan Rup. And this Brahmana was incredibly powerful. He was incredibly powerful. He was incredibly proud. So now I'm sure many of us, whether we're watching online or whether we're here in the temple room, I'm sure somehow or another in our own lives, there is a particular skills, a particular abilities, there is a particular things that we may be proud of. Whether that may be our ability to write, whether that may be our ability to speak, whether that may be the quality of our chanting, whatever it is, or we may be proud of our relationship, we may be proud of our home, we may be proud of our car, whatever it is. We all have some factors, some element of something that we're good at. And when we are always functioning within the realm of what we're good at, pride can always creep in. So this particular Brahmana, he was incredible at debating. He was very scholarly. He had a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom. But a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom doesn't necessarily mean purity of a heart. It doesn't mean transformation of the heart. Just because you know so much, it doesn't necessarily mean you're a good person. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily a transformed person. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have the impact, the ability to be able to touch people's heart. They say nowadays people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So therefore, this particular Brahmana was so well scholared. He was so proud of his ability to memorize all the Shastra, but he had no humility. He had no grace. He didn't know how to respect, especially those that were senior to him. So he was traveling all over India looking for all the most well-scholared pundits. He was looking for the most well-scholared, versed people to defeat them, to debate with them, to win over them. Don't we know people like that in today's society? Like when we observe the world around us, nowadays it's no longer about caring, it's just about being right. In a relationship, we're so eager and keen to be right. In our career, we're so eager and keen to be right. Wherever we go, we just simply want to be right. And sometimes the cost of that is that it costs our relationship. It costs, it doesn't just cost relationship, it costs our character. We may be right, but in the process of being right, we're losing dignity. We're losing character. We're losing quality over wanting to be right. So this was the case scenario for this particular Brahmana, traveling around all over India, finding all the different types of scholars he can find just to defeat them, just to make himself feel better, make himself feel more significant. And then once he had heard of Rupa Goswami. So Rupa Goswami, if many of you know, he's one of our acharyas. He has played such a significant impact and role in our movement, in all of the scriptures that we have today. How many of you know Rupa Goswami? That's fine. How many of you read the Bhagavad Gita? That's fine too. So Rupa Goswami is a very important person in our sampradaya and very well scholared. So then this Narayan, Rupa Narayan, this Brahmana, he went to Rupa Goswami and he said to Rupa Goswami that I have heard that you are the most greatest of Pandits, a scholar, and I want to debate with you. I want to discuss with you, debate with you, I want to win. So Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he says something very important. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that I am the ability in man. Every single one of you think back on your own, evaluate your own lives. Evaluate your own circumstance. There may be something that you're good at. Like for instance, we have so many people that have the ability to walk. But then later on, some incident may occur, some accident may happen, and they may lose their ability to walk. Some people have the ability to talk. Later on, they may lose their ability to talk. Some people may have the ability to see. And later on, they may lose their ability to see. So we all have different abilities. We all have different skill sets. We all have different things that we're good at. If we don't utilize it out of humility in service, then we may just lose it. If we become arrogant and proud of what we have, then it may become what we had. So this particular personality, this Brahmana, very proud, but he had no humility. And when he approached Rupa Goswami to debate with him, Rupa Goswami said, "You win. It's okay. I don't need to debate. You win. You can have the title of being the greatest scholarly person." How many of us can really and truly say that we have that level of humility? That we're not attached to status, we're not attached to labels, we're not attached to being the best. But we always keep the focal focus on what matters the most in life, which is what? Devotional service, pleasing Krishna, service to Krishna. You see, everything in this material world is temporary. Our success is temporary. Our wins are temporary. Our skills are temporary. Today we use it, tomorrow we lose it. But actually, you see, life is a journey, and that journey is from B to D. B, what does B stand for? And what does D stand for? And what is in the center? C. What does C stand for? Choice. So life is between B to D. And in between B to D, there's something called C, which indicates choice. Every single day of our life, from the moment we're born to the day that we die, we have a choice. Krishna has given us an ability, just like this Brahmana was given the ability to be well scholarly. Now we can utilize that to become proud, to develop some popularity, some status for ourselves. But how long will that last? So Rupa Goswami was like, no, it's okay. You go for it. You want to be labeled, you want to have the title of being the greatest scholar? Okay, you go for it. You can be the greatest scholar. Because you see, I always tell people the greatest loss in life is not that you're humiliated and stuff like that, but it's what you allow to die inside while still alive. Rupa Goswami could have debated with him, but at the compromise of what? At the cost of what? So we must always safeguard what is essential, what is important, what matters. And we mustn't be distracted by what is temporary, what seems pleasurable in that moment, what seems like is the easiest choice to make. Because the easiest choice to make doesn't always necessarily mean the easiest choice to live with. The easiest choice often can become the most difficult choices to live with. So yes, you may be well clever, but is that for you to establish a name, a prestige for yourself? Or is that to try and utilize that to serve, to help, to contribute, to make a difference? So, like I said, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions that he is the ability in man. So therefore, whatever ability that we have, we must utilize it. The motivation must always be to serve Krishna. Because if the motivation isn't to serve Krishna, the motivation then becomes to serve our senses. On our senses, it says, Bhaktivedanta Thakur says, our senses are like a network of Maya, a network of an illusion. When we follow our senses are always dragging us around all over the places. It's always taking us from one happiness to another. It's always taking us from one success to another. It's always taking us to one accomplishment after the another. The senses are never satisfied. The senses are always looking and searching for ways to inject and to pump into more high feelings in our lives. But at the cost of what? Time. So therefore, Dhruva Maharaj, how many of you know Dhruva Maharaj? Oh, wonderful, yes. Dhruva Maharaj, he said the most wonderful thing. Dhruva Maharaj, he was meant to get the kingdom of his father. But then what happened was that he didn't get it. And then later on, he decided to go into the forest to do benediction, to meditate. And then Lord Narayan appeared. And then when Lord Narayan appeared, then he realized something so significantly important that we must try and realize in our lifetime. And Dhruva Maharaj said that all these times, I've been searching for broken glasses, but I have found a jewel. What is that jewel? That jewel is the process of Krishna consciousness. Every single day, whenever we look around, we're always looking for broken glasses. We're always looking to multiply our homes, to multiply. Like the other day, I went to one home and I saw like 4 or 5 cars. We're always multiplying, we're always increasing our wealth, our possession. We're always increasing our family. We're always increasing. The motto nowadays has become increase, not simplicity. But you see, simple living creates higher thinking. When we increase our possession, then what it is that we become so distracted that we're unable to see the jewel that we are carrying in between our hands, that Dhruva Maharaj was talking about. And what is that jewel? That jewel is the Supreme Personality of Godhead that came in the form of Lord Chaitanya to give us the most sweetest thing, which is the holy name. Where else can you find a more grand value, a more grand possession, a more grand wealth than the holy name? So many people can tell you they've traveled all over the world. They've achieved all the accomplishments and success that we may be looking for, and they're still not happy. Once, Muhammad Ali, how many of you know Muhammad Ali? I'm sure you all know. Great. He was having a conversation with one of our sannyasi ISKCON guru. And Muhammad Ali, believe it or not, this was a private conversation. He said to our Sannyasi ISKCON Guru that when I wasn't rich, when I wasn't famous, I used to look at the TV and I used to think and feel what it would be like to be famous, what it would be like to be able to be in touch with so many people, what it would be like to have so much attention. I used to hanker for that. I used to crave for that. I used to want for that. But now I can't even get a sleep because people are always contacting me. I can't even get privacy because wherever I go, there's always people taking photos of me, this and that. And it's like, I don't know who to trust. I don't know who I can rely on. I don't know anymore. I just don't have that same peace that I used to have before. And this, my friends, is the reality of life. We always think that the grass is greener on the other side. And that's what Dhruva Maharaj thought. Dhruva Maharaj thought that if I attain the kingdom of my father, I'll be happy. But he realized that that wasn't what's going to bring him happiness. That wasn't what's going to bring him satisfaction. So we're always looking for more. But in the process of it, we're becoming more faithless. We're losing in touch with Krishna. We're losing in connection with Krishna. So we must always keep the focus point on Krishna. We must always focus on what is important, what is vital. Because what is vital is what's going to nourish our spiritual life. Just like every single one of you, I'm sure before you came here, you had some meal, something to grab, something to eat. But what are you doing to nourish the soul? You're nourishing this body, this human body that is meant to stay here only for some temporary period of time. But after a while, it's going to decay. After a while, it's going to grow old. At some point, you will no longer be able to take care of it. But what are you doing to nourish your eternal self? We put so much emphasis into this physical body, but how much emphasis do we put into the spiritual self? So this is what Dhruva Maharaj was talking about. This is the jewel that nourishes your internal self, the jewel that keeps you alive and keeps you going within. So this is really important. And every single day, actually, we can continue reminding ourselves of this. How do we continue reminding ourselves of this? We can take darshan of the Lord in so many ways, not just seeing, but also hearing. Because all the processes takes us to the same destination. Whether we hear about the Lord, whether we see the Lord, whether we speak about the Lord, wherever Krishna is being mentioned, wherever Krishna is being glorified, wherever Krishna is being heard, Krishna is always there present, guiding us in the form of Paramatma, within us, empowering us to continue more further into devotional service. So there is no loss. Krishna says there is no loss and diminution, that even the slightest endeavor into attaining me can actually save one from the greatest fear of loss, from the greatest fear of pain. And what is the greatest fear of pain? For many of us, the greatest fear of pain is death. We're all afraid to die. We're all afraid to lose our lives. But actually, when we engage ourselves in devotional service, when we hear about the Lord, when we become attached to the Lord, then we realize actually death is a calling for a greater service in our life. Death is that so that we can therefore embrace the Lord in our lives. So this is really important to bear in mind. And so it's really amazing. Every single one of us, we all have different motivations. And sometimes we may find that we have become attached to that motivation. But Krishna consciousness teaches us how to be flexible. Spiritual life teaches us how to be adaptable. If we become simply attached to a certain plans in our life, a certain way of living, a certain way of functioning, a certain way of being, then what happens is that becomes the core of our suffering. And then what happens is that then that dictates, that decides what our existence will be in the next life. So therefore, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita assures us that yes, engage in activities, do what you are responsible for, do what you are meant to be doing, but don't be attached to the result. Bharat Maharaj, when he saw that deer, he took care of that deer out of compassion, out of love, out of care. He took care of that deer, he helped that deer, he supported that deer, but he became attached to that deer. And as a result of becoming attached to that deer, in his next life, he took birth as a deer. So this is really important. It's not necessarily always what is going on outside of us, as important as it is also what is going on inside of us. Whatever activities that we engage ourselves in, it's not just that I'm good at doing things on the outside, but it's also in what mood am I doing inside. It's amazing actually. Sometimes we may actually perform even loving devotional service externally, but we may have some level of greediness, some level of envy, some level of anxiety. We may want to see someone prosper in their life, but we don't want to see them prosper more than we're prospering. We may want to see someone do well in life, but we don't want to see them doing as well as we are. So there's always a boundary, there's always a limitation, there's always a ceiling glass. That we're happy to see someone make a certain level of progress, but anything more than that, then envy breeds, greediness breeds, all these different emotions breeds. So we must be introspective. My mentor always said, Prabhupada said that a devotee should be as introspective as a non-devotee is speculative. It's not that we just do things externally. Shishi Radha Gokulananda ki, Shishi Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shishi Gauranitai ki. So it's not just that we're good at doing things externally. We must be very attentive. We must pay a careful attention to the motivation. And one thing that really helps is association. So many of you have made a wise decision. You're here. You're listening to Bhagavad Gita class, you're taking darshan, you're going to be singing the Guru Arti. So all these are different forms of elements of association. The most dangerous thing in this world is being alone. The most simply dangerous thing in this world is spending too much time on our own. Because when we spend too much time on our own, when we're alone, when we don't take the shelter, when we don't take the protection of the devotees, when we don't come to environments like this, then I assure you that there is not an awful lot of great plans for you out there. Wherever you look, whether it's the banners, whether it's the TV, whether it's the music, whether it's the newspaper, so many distractions to continue keeping you in the bodily platform. So therefore, Narada Muni, in that particular pastime, he showed us so beautifully that by just taking associations of saintly personalities, and believe me, there's so many saintly people here, by taking associations of saintly personality, then one finds a new direction, a new purpose to their existence. One is transformed, their heart is purified. They find a new sense of path in life. I remember 4 years ago when I came to this temple, it was like I really didn't have a very clear map of what my future was going to be like, what I was planning to do, where I was going to wind up in. And now it's 4 years later, by just simply associating with the saints, spending time with them, inquiring from them, serving them, taking time, spending time with them, it transforms your character. It transforms your vision. And that is the ability of a saintly person. And a saintly person can take whatever plans you have for your life and then make it something even more grand, even more bigger, even more powerful, and give you a clearer vision for your life than what you could possibly envision. Because what we envision is just restricted, is limited, is encapsulated by our direct perception, our direct experience of life. And that may not always be positive. Often that is actually negative, because of just the way we've been conditioned. So therefore, by associating with saintly personalities, they elevate our consciousness, just like Narada Muni. And so then, therefore, Narada Muni spent the rest of his life just traveling around different space, different planets, different places, preaching, glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He made his life a perfection. And then sometimes we may think, but who am I? Who am I? I can't make my life great. I can't make my life a perfection. I'm a nobody. I can't do anything. But Narada Muni actually showed us through his own personal example. He showed us through his own personal determination and conviction that if we spend time with the saints, well, it doesn't matter who we think we are, who we think we're not. We're parts and parcel of the Supreme Lord. We're a spark of his glory. We're a spark of his magnanimous qualities, personality, traits. If we simply associate with those, Krishna says that I am in the hearts of my devotees. I am in their hearts and they are in my heart. So therefore, when we associate with people whose hearts is Krishna and Krishna is their heart, then what it is that we develop similar qualities to the Lord. And then therefore we're able to associate with the Lord. And then we're able to then preach the glory of the Lord. And when we do that, whether we're in heaven or hell, whatever the struggle may be, we will always develop a Vrindavan consciousness. We will always develop a consciousness of peace. We're all searching for peace, but peace is not outside. Peace is within us. And that peace is so dormant, but we can awaken it through the process of sadhana bhakti, just like Narada Muni. So that's a little bit about motivation. Are we all clear so far? So that's a little bit. Please do try and pay attention. That's a little bit about motivation. Now the next thing I want to really talk about is decision making. One of the things that we find so difficult in today's society is making decisions. Am I right? We all struggle with decision making. What is the right decision? Am I making the right decision? How come it doesn't feel like I'm making the right decision? And sometimes what it is that we contradict and we conflict with ourselves. You know, there's something so-called that, you know, we have the reflective self and then we have the ego self, or the senses. So often what it is that whenever we go through life and difficulties, we're always conflicted with these two selves. The reflective aspect, which is the intelligence, which is the soul, and then the ego, which is the mind, which encapsulates, restricts us, which is always just looking for pleasure, and trying to avoid pain. So actually it's really amazing. If we look at the pastime, there's a particular pastime I want to relay, and this is the pastime of Arjun. So Arjun, what had happened was once he made a vow. So many of you know Arjun, right? From the Bhagavad Gita. So once he made a vow, and his vow was that anyone that offends my Gandiva bow, I will kill them. So the famous Gandiva bow. He was able to conquer so many different personalities with that Gandiva bow. But anyone that offends it, I will kill them. So then Arjun was given the task of killing Karna. But then what had happened was he returned to Maharaj Yudhishthira, and then he was basically, and Maharaj Yudhishthira asked him, like, you know, were you able to kill Karna? You know, were you able to destroy him? And then what happened was Arjun said no. And then in that moment, what had happened was that Maharaj Yudhishthira started offending Arjun and his Gandiva bow. And then, as you can all tell, Arjun made a promise that anyone that offends my bow, I'm going to kill them. So in that moment, just as he was about to fulfill the promise, that very promise that he made himself, Krishna stopped him. And Krishna stopped him. Krishna said, instead of killing him, why don't you just cut the necklace, whatever it is? And in that way, humiliation is even worse than death. That's why I say that the greatest loss in life is not death, but it's what dies inside while still alive. So even more painful than death is humiliation, and to live with that humiliation. So you see, the significant thing, like once what happened was that, you know, there was this particular Brahmana, and this particular Brahmana made a vrat, he made a vow that I will never tell a lie. So, and then what happened was there was this other devotee, this other personality that was running away from some bandits. And then as he was running from these bandits, he saw this Brahmana and he said to this Brahmana, oh, these people are chasing me. I'm going to go and hide. Please don't tell them where I'm hiding. Don't tell them which way I'm going. And so the Brahman said, okay, sure. But then he was conflicted within because he made a vow that I will never tell the truth, that I will follow the regulative principle. I will be honest. I will be truthful. And then in that moment, he told the bandits exactly where this devotee, where this personality was hiding. And he thought he did the right thing. He thought Krishna was going to be pleased with him. But actually, in reality, he then went to hell. So what is that to teach us? What is that to teach us? Is that actually there is always a context to doing the right thing. There's always a context to when it comes to making the right decisions. And how do we ensure that we're making the right decisions? Our Shastra, our process teaches something very beautiful, that you always go through sadhu, guru, and Shastra. Whatever decision you're making in life, whether it may be in relationships, whether it may be in career, whatever it is, sadhu, mentor. It's so important that we find people in our life to guide us that are elevated in consciousness, that are not struggling with the same thing as us. So we go through our mentors. What better place to find mentors than here at Bhaktivedanta Manor? So we go through our mentors. That's one aspect of it. Then we go through the guru. So it's really important that at some stage, every single one of us, we actually consider it and carefully pay attention to taking initiation, taking shelter. Because without shelter, we'll always struggle in our life. But shelter comes through effort. It comes through endeavor. It comes through a process. And we must follow that process. Otherwise, what it is that, this whole process is meant to be like a fort, there to protect us from whatever temptations, distractions, difficulties, and challenges around us. Otherwise, we're going to be trapped in the prison house of our senses. So it's so important that we also look into eventually in our life of finding someone that we can take shelter of. So Shastra, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Yes, Shastra means the Bhagavad Gita. These classes happens every single day at 6 p.m. But it doesn't have to just limit to you just coming here every day at 6 p.m. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada in his time, Prabhupada disciples, they used to say that everyone had to go after one cassette just to listen to Srila Prabhupada. There wasn't as much access to information as there is today. There wasn't so much access to Srila Prabhupada's teaching as there is today. Today you have the computer, you have TV, you have laptop, you have phone, you have so many gadgets. And gadgets are not evil, but how you utilize them is what's important. Sometimes people say that, yeah, I'm detached, I need to become more detached. But detachment doesn't mean aversion. It doesn't mean you avoid something. It means how do you utilize that something. Anything, whether it may be laptop, whether it may be TV, whatever it may be phone, whatever technology you have in your home, you can either utilize it to become more focused or you can utilize it to become more distracted. Like I said, BD, C is your choice. Whatever you do is your choice. And for every choice, there's a repercussion. There's a consequence. There's an elevation of consciousness or degradation of consciousness. It all contextually comes down to your habit. So that's also very important to remember. That, sometimes we may be conflicted with making the right decisions, but if we follow the words of Krishna, we follow the words of our mentor, we follow the words of the Guru, then we will always be assured that we will make the right decision. And it may not seem like you're making the right decision. Sometimes you've made a decision and in that moment you're struggling a lot. You're suffering a lot. You may almost feel like, have I made the right decision? Like I remember, it's not the best example, but I remember like when I left home to pursue spiritual life. And at that moment I was thinking, did I make the right choice? Did I make the right decision? I gave up my comfort. I gave up my life of like stability for something I'm unsure of. But look where it's led me to today. Being able to be here at Bhaktivedanta Manor, being able to be here in the ashram, being able to be here to serve, to give, to share. So I look back in those 4 years since I left home and I'm actually grateful for every moment of it. So whatever challenge you may be experiencing, you may not be able to be grateful for it in that moment because you don't see what it's coming off. But later, eventually you'll realize when you start jotting the dots together that everything in your life, Krishna has a grand plan. He has an amazing plan. You just may not see it now. But just because you don't see it now, it doesn't mean you give up. They say that actually some of the greatest people in the world were so close to their goals, but they gave up just when they were that close. Don't be one of them. You have the most valuable, precious, the most incredible thing in your hand. Don't let go of it now. For what? Temporary distractions? I don't have time. I'm busy. I've got families to take care of. Bhaktivedanta Thakur had more than 11 children, and yet he was still able to make time for his spiritual life. So what excuses do we have? You see, whatever we look for, we find. If we're looking for excuses, we find excuses. If we're looking for solutions in how we can go deeper in our spiritual life, we'll find solutions. Krishna is the most mystic personality. He will empower some solutions inside of you. But Krishna sees, what do you want? I'm not going to give you what you don't want. I'll give you what you want. If you want to become more serious, if you want to become my devotee, then I will inspire you. I will show you. I will reveal to you. So in life, we don't just get what we're desiring. We get what we believe about what we desire. It's not enough just to be like, I wish I could do more of this. You must believe it. You must inject faith. And how do you do that? Through the process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Vishnunam. So, just bear with me. Is everything clear so far? Are you all paying attention? Okay, great. Because I might ask questions after. So, So I'll leave you with one last thing. I'll leave you with one last thing. We're living in this age of Kali Yuga. Once there was a personality that went to Bhima with all these different questions, but Bhima couldn't answer it. So then Bhima suggested this devotee, this person, to go to Maharaj Yudhishthira. So I want to share something very important, and then I'll conclude with that. And then if you have any question, please do feel free to ask. So once what happened is that, first of all, in Shastra, it says that it is so difficult to make progress without the right support in our life. And the reason why is because in this day and age, every single one of us make mistakes, right? But the problem when we make mistakes is we don't want to admit to our mistake. How many of you in your relationship, sometimes you get into an argument with someone, and then at some point you realize like, oh, okay, maybe I made a mistake there, but you don't want to admit it. You want to just keep carrying on and on and on and on and on until you kind of impose your opinion, you impose whatever you're feeling onto others. So this is what it is. Not only do we make mistakes, but we don't want to admit that we make mistakes. The other thing is that we have imperfect senses. If we were to turn off all the lights, you may look at something and it may look like a figure that it may not be. Like sometimes we may be in a conversations and we mishear something, we misunderstand something. Most conflicts in relationships, most conflict in life comes from misunderstanding. We misheard something, or we've misseen something, or we've misunderstood something. Not only that, we have the propensity to cheat. We may cheat in our test. We may cheat in our career sometimes, we may cheat, whatever, just to get to the destination. The motto in today's Kali Yuga is that the ends justify the means. That's the mentality of the non-devotees. And if not that, we're always in illusion. So these are the 4 different things that kind of really shoots us on the foot. But there's hope. And let me tell you what that hope is. So once someone came to Maharaj Yudhishthira and asked the Maharaj Yudhishthira that, there's one problem. And that one problem is that he's noticed that someone's fence was moving into someone else's fence. The next issue is that another person had a big pot of water. And what he had decided to do was distribute that water amongst other pots. But then when he got all those little small pots together and put it in the main big pot, half of the water was gone. The third thing is that the eye of a needle, an elephant was able to go through that eye of a needle, a giant elephant, but the tail got stuck. And the last thing is that there was a big boulder, a big rock. And then all these different personalities were trying to move this rock and they couldn't move this rock. But then what happened was then this sadhu came out of nowhere and with a danda, he was able to move that rock. So these were the 4 puzzles. And this will reveal something very important, so I hope you have all paying attention. The first puzzle, the fence, what does this mean? So what this means is that in this day and age, people are so unhappy, so unsatisfied with what they have. They're constantly looking to what other people have. In that way, they're never happy and they're always trying to acquire more and more. And Srila Prabhupada said that in this world, there is enough for our need, but there's not enough for our greed. So that's the first thing, is that we have all the things that we need to make our life into perfection, but yet we're still focused on what other people have. And we're trying to acquire more of what they have because we think that's going to make us happy. That's number 1. The second thing is that the big pot, you disperse it into small pots, but then when you get it back into the big pot again, it's half. Nowadays, we may invest 100% of our effort and endeavor into our family, our friends, our relationship. But in Kali Yuga, you can only expect 50% back. Nowadays, when you raise your children to become a young, fine adults, and later on they get into their 20s, what do? Not you, but out there in society. They just chuck their parents into care homes. It's like, I no longer need you. I'm okay now. So this is Kali Yuga. That you put and invest so much energy into your loved ones, into affection, relationships, whatever it is, and only you get 50% back. Expectation becomes disappointment, disheartenment, discouragement. I'm not saying all of you are wonderful, I'm sure children are amazing, but this is Kali Yuga. The third thing is that the eye of a needle. Nowadays, like especially whenever I'm outside and I'm preaching, sometimes I try and share this book with people. I try and give them, and they say like, "Oh, I don't have any money, I don't have any time." But then they go to the shop and then they buy like 200, 300 pound worth of clothes. So nowadays in Kali Yuga, people are willing to invest so much into sense gratification, but yet so little in spiritual advancement. Nobody cares about spiritual advancement nowadays. You go out there and you tell people spirituality, the only spirituality they'll tell you is yoga. That's the only spirituality they know. But then what does yoga mean? Yoga has actually originated from Sanskrit. It means union, to connect with the Supreme Lord. So even yoga is being used for business, is being used for people's sense gratification. And this is the reality of society. We take spirituality and we turn it into business. The last thing is that there was a big boulder and nobody could move it. But then this sannyasi, this sadhu came out of nowhere with a danda and was able to move it. That even with all the problems in the world, even with all the difficulties in the world, even with every struggle in the world, so even if you don't remember anything from this class, remember this one thing. Through the process of Hare Nam, Yuga Dharma Sankirtan, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, that every single one of our problems falls into places. Krishna empowers us and he gives us the ability in how to overcome our struggles and difficulties. So if you don't remember anything, just remember this one thing, chant Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. So does anyone have question? We have 5 minutes. Or any reflection. So Vajrabuhari, he mentions this very beautiful thing that, relish, recall and reflect. So even if you don't have a question, please share one thing that you can reflect on, one thing that you've relished from this class, or one thing that you recall. Anything? We've got quite a gathering, so I'm sure someone has something to share. Just one thing, 5 minutes. So one person has to say one thing. Let me get a mic. So anyone? We've got quite a gathering, so just one person.
I think looking at what other people have, and then that plays quite a big role in everybody's life, because it's quite hard to just think about what you have and not look at what others have. So I think that was a good thing to take away.
Thank you. So did you hear that? It's so hard not to look at what other people have, but that comes through training. They say that the 3 cancers is comparativeness, competitiveness, and criticism. But we can overcome that through practice and detachment. Anyone else?
Well, I have something to share. These two, they're really amazing, both of them. I don't know why people say they don't have time for spirituality. I mean, both of them, they get up in the morning, after a shower and all, they'll do their job first. They'll do their Hanuman Chalisa before they go to school. So after that, they'll have, after the puja, they'll have their breakfast and then go to school. And in the evening now, these days, because of their work and all, their studies and all, they're getting a bit distracted, I believe. Otherwise, it was in the evening as well.
Amazing.
But they do switch on the arti or, some chanting, and they would just go on with their studies.
Amazing.
So, it's easy to do
Brilliant.
it. It's really easy.
So we have examples, They say that I am not who I think I am not who you think I am who I think you think I am. So we're living in a perception of an illusion. If we expose ourselves to an environment where we see other children that are practicing Krishna consciousness so nicely, then why is it not possible for us? The thing is, we don't see enough inspiration in our life, so we don't think inspiration is there. We don't see enough people doing good in the world, so we don't feel like there's enough good there in the world. But if we just come to the temple and we see so many different young children, especially if you come to Krishna Club with different talents, different skill sets, different abilities, then you think to yourself, why not also my children? What am I doing them to benefit their eternality? What am I doing them to secure them not just a future in this world, but in another world? So I recommend every single one of you, if you have children young enough, join Krishna Club. Okay? So thank you so much. I'll leave at that. We've only got 3 more minutes. You've got something to share?
Yeah. Why is it that when people know that they're doing something wrong, they still carry on?
It's called the modes of material nature. So in the Bhagavad Gita, even Prahlad Maharaj, he says here that the senses are so strong that it binds one to this material nature, that even when they know intelligently that I shouldn't be doing something, because they're so kind of attached to the mind and whatever it is, it's almost like they're forced to act against their will. It's just living in this material world. That's why I was saying earlier on, association is so important. When you associate with positive people, what they do is they kind of snap you away from that illusion, and they bring you to the reality that you do have a choice. That you shouldn't just be binded by whatever everyone else is influencing you to do. Choose your friends wisely. That's all it comes down to. The people that you choose to serve. So if you spend time with alcoholics, it doesn't matter whether you like drinking or not, you're going to become alcoholic. If you become with smokers, no matter whether you like smoking or not, you're going to smoke. It's just natural. It's called mirror effect. The mirror effect. Thank you so much. Okay, so a few more minutes. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you all so much for your attention, patience. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dear devotees, if we can come right to the front. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Bhagavan ki jai. Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ji ki jai. Gaur Nitai ki jai. We'll be singing during the Aarti, we'll be singing a simple Hare Krishna bhajan just on the sheet at the top on the right hand side. It's a very simple language. Please do try to follow. Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande Arati ko Shobha Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande Jana Vitata Vane Jagamana Lobha Lakhe Nikate Advaita Srini Vasa Chakradhara Nikate Advaita Srini Vasa Chakradhara Vasa Chakradhara Bosi Ache Gauracha Ratna Simhasan आदि देवगान आरती करे आदि देवगान नारा हरे आदि करे हमारा धुलाय नारा हरे आदि करे हमारा धुलाय संजय मुकुंद वासु घोषादि गाय संजय मुकुंद शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे बाजे करता शंख बाजे मधुरा मृदंग बाजे परमरसाला मधुरा मृदंग शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे शंख बाजे ओ माधुर 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 बाजे माधुर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल गौरा हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल गौरा हरि बोल गौरा हरि बाहो कोटि चंद्राजिनी वदन उज्ज्वल बाहो कोटि चंद्राजिनी गाना देश बाना माला कोरे झालमाला गाना देश बाना माला कोरे झालमाला शिवा सुखा नारदा प्रेम गदा गदा शिवा भाकाते विनोदा देखे घोरारा संपादा Jayo Jayo Gora Chande Arati Koshobha Jayo Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namah Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachare Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschapyadesha Tarine Namaste Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Jaya Shri Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Jaya Shri Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Everyone please boliye Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Louder. Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna. Please try to follow. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Bolo bolo bolo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Hare. Everyone, please sing. Boliye. Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Sing, 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 Hari Bol. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo! Only a few minutes, please keep going. Haribol, louder. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. With all your heart. And your voice. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, ask everyone to please put their hands in the air. Look at the deities and repeat after me. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. So the scriptures say in this age of Kali to make Krishna happy is actually very easy. All you have to do is raise your hands and chant his name. So we're going to do that again. Hands a bit higher, voices a bit louder. Hare Krishna! Hare Krishna! Krishna Krishna! Hare Hare! Hare Rama! Hare Rama! Rama Rama! Hare Hare! Shri Radha Gokulanand Bhagavan ki jai. So ladies and gentlemen, whether you know or you don't know, today you've come on a very special day. It is the day of Ekadashi. Ekadashi means the day that is most dear to Krishna. Krishna has given Ekadashi his own name, and Ekadashi is also known as Harivasara. So please take advantage of being here today. We request you all to please bow down. Please bow down if you have space near you. If not, at least take a seat. We're going to be chanting the Premadhvani prayers. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Stoutar Shata Shri Srimad Shilaesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Nitya Leela Pravishna Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Stoutar Shata Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki Shri Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai. Nilachal Kshetra Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Shri Shri Bhaktivedanta Manor Dham ki jai. Shri Ganga Jamuna Maiya ki jai. Bhakti Pradani Tulsi Maharani ki jai. Shri Shri Tulsi Maharani ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Ganga Jamuna Maiya ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Gokulanand Bhagavan ki jai. Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ji ki jai. Gauranitai ki jai. Shri Shri Papa Mochani Ekadashi Mahamahotsav ki jai. Nitai Gaur Pramanande. Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So concluding today's Aarti, we're going to be chanting a prayer to Lord Narasimha. Lord Narasimha is the God of protection. Protection for you, protection for our community, protection for Bhaktivedanta Manor. So please do remain for a couple more minutes. If you can, please do remain. You will all get prasad at the end of the puja. So please, before the deities close, do remain inside. Hare Krishna.
Namaste Narasimhaya. भगवान की, प्रहलाद महाराज की, शिला प्रभुपाद की, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे।
Hare Krishna. I'd like to thank you all for joining us this evening for Gaura Aarti. If you have time and if you would like, the next Aarti is at 9 o'clock. So if you want to absorb and engage, just spend some time in the temple. You are welcome to stay. 9 o'clock is the next Aarti. If you have to leave, just next door we're giving some prasad. So please do take some prasad from the Aarti before you go home. We wish you all the best and safe journey. Take care. Hare Krishna. We hope to see you very soon once again. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.